Ron Nelson back in our Sioux Falls studios. Ron, commercial real estate discussion that we do on Friday right after the half hour. Got about 7-8 minutes this morning, Ron, and let's talk a little bit about New Year's, the new Congress, and some of the things that may have tipping points.
You know, it's the our first program on our segment of the year. You know, last year we kind of did the wind down of 2018. Now we're kind of looking forward to 2019 with 18 in the rearview mirror, Bill. For historic purposes, I actually keep pretty good notes, copious notes actually, on these programs that I do every year. I thought it would be fun to go back to last year's first program of 2018 and see what rhetoric or whatever I was saying back then and if any of it came true. And the watchword for 2018 was, I said, we are potentially vulnerable in some of our retail. We have a couple of anchor stores in the mall that could likely close. Well, does that make me a prophet or a guru? I think that writing was on the wall, and the fact that we did lose 2 anchors last year, was a fairly probably easy and obvious prediction. So, but, that did indeed happen. I did start the new year, like a lot of us did, with the Chamber's legislative preview. That was, what was that, Thursday morning, I guess just yesterday?
Just yesterday.
And always interesting. Were you there, Bill? I didn't know if I saw you there.
No, I'm just a little person in the back, but I did not get there yesterday, so...
Well, even when you're there, sometimes people ask you to stand up when you already are. So, but
Thanks,
we won't
Ron.
go there. Sorry about that. But I sat with we'll call him a prominent community leader, somebody everybody knows. Names aren't important, but the typical line of questions that we always ask each other. And his question to me was, Ron, what is your outlook for 2019? I listened to Jody earlier, and really we are in lockstep in terms of our assessment of the upcoming market this year. My exact words were robust. And it was interesting because he kind of scriggled up his face a little bit and said, really? I said, yeah, why? He said, I just came back from a, call it seminar, something like that. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but a gathering anyway of kind of regional, everybody from economists to site selection guys, all that, and, sort of looking at the same things, the future. And he said, basically, the overriding attitude that we got was one of doom and gloom.
Wow.
And he said, that concerns me. And we've been talking about this, Bill, and I'm certainly not a negative individual, but at the same time, you can't put your head in the sand either, and we need to, keep our head very much in our antenna up to, what might be going on out there. And do we have some vulnerabilities, in Sioux Falls, certainly on a national level, we've got the Democrats promising gridlock now that we got a new Speaker of the House sworn in yesterday. We just came off the best holiday retail sales year in 6 years. Retail sales were up 5.1%. I've always said, that is kind of a important bellwether or something that we all watch in terms of an economic indicator. So,
Ron, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you for a second because we're going to have somebody join us from D.C. at this point. Congressman Dusty Johnson is going to jump in. We've been just talking about the Democrats and Republican. Mr. Congressman, I can officially call you that. How's things in D.C.?
Zorman, things are great, but Dusty would be just fine. It's been, yesterday was kind of a zoo, but I guess that's life out here on the Hill.
So, is the Hill where you wanted to be and grow up?
No, it really never was. I've always been a lot more comfortable, in South Dakota and running around the halls of that capital. But, it does seem like we're at a point in this country where we, need good people who are willing to put their shoulder to the wheel. And, listen, I'm having fun. Don't let me, a lot of these politicians complain and they act like it's such a terrible sacrifice, and I'm sure there are days where it will be. But right now it feels like a heck of an honor.
Stalemate's the word that Ron Nelson was just using in D.C. with the Democrats looking at one platform, the Republicans and the president looking perhaps at two other platforms. What do you see? How are we going to get business back as usual and make you smile all the time when you're in D.C.?
Well, we do have an impasse at the budget, and, immigration and border security is going to be an area where people are going to fight and scratch and claw, and there is going to be, that's going to be hard work. But I don't, there is good stuff getting done. I mean, I don't want to pat myself on the back, so I guess I'll talk about the last Congress. But just in the waning days of the 115th Congress, they passed a farm bill with vote totals we have literally never before seen in the Senate or in the House. We passed the most comprehensive criminal justice reform package in, a decade or two. And, just today, I just walked off the floor. The vote I just cast was a yes on a plan that the Democrats have to form a select committee on the modernization of government. And when I walked off the floor, there were 2 no votes on that. And so I know a lot of people think that, if the Democrats have an idea, the Republicans are going to vote against it in the House, and there'll be plenty of days where that's the case. But listen, Speaker and her team had a good idea on this committee, and I'm all for it.
Ron Nelson, do you have a question for Congressman?
Well, congratulations, Congressman Dusty. How's that? I don't know if you know me. We've met in the past, but it's been a while. But congratulations to you.
Oh, yeah,
you worked hard and had a great race, and I'm excited to have you on the Hill representing us. The question I talk about our commercial real estate program, I threw out a gauntlet of what does the wall mean for Sioux Falls? Kind of hard to do a direct correlation, but, I'm fearful, as a lot of us are, that, this whole issue could put the economy in a tailspin, and obviously we're all going to feel that. Do you think that's a possibility? It just seems like we're teetering, in a few areas, and we're all watching closely what you're doing up there.
Yeah, and I do think there's going to be a deal done. Of course, I hope it's sooner rather than later. There are a lot of distractions to this process. For instance, the votes that the House took yesterday, the package the Speaker put forward, those are still votes. I think Speaker Pelosi understands there's a 0% chance that the Senate approves that and a 0% chance that the President signs it. And so those aren't real efforts to reopen government. They're sort of part of a process where people are staking out their negotiating positions. That's frustrating to me. I suspect it's frustrating to everybody, including the Speaker. But next week, we're going to have people who are not going to get paychecks. That is a time where, to your point, Ron, we risk beginning to cause, serious and lasting damage. And I think cooler heads are going to prevail. I think the President, the Senate, and the House are going to understand that next week is going to start to get way too late to just be doing political posturing. And I think you're going to see some real movement in the next 6 or 7 days.
Well, you're going to have to keep an eye on it. You are on our payroll, even though they're not going to take a check. So, by the way, what charity are you going to give it to? I've got 3 or 4 in mind.
Yeah, well, and I'm still figuring out the right way to handle this, and then I'm going to probably file a letter here in the next few days. Yeah, apparently there seems to be legal consensus that you can't reject your pay. You can have them withhold your pay, or you can donate it to charity. There are some ways around this. I'm going to find one, but if I end up donating it to charity, it's going to be to the Abbott House in Mitchell. They're a place that helps abused and neglected kids. They're based in Mitchell, as I said, but they've got houses in Rapid City that are helping kids, and that's one that's really near and dear to my heart. And I think the letter we're going to file today or next week is going to say, hey, withhold my pay as long as we got a shutdown. Don't send me a check, and we'll sort of figure out legally what the right way to handle it is after that.
Which one of your boys was looking up at you saying, Dad, I'm going to be a congressman someday?
Oh, I would never wish that on them, Bill. But no, I think 13-year-old, while we've been out here the last couple of days, he's been the one, Max, the oldest one. He has been most interested in how does the process work. And it is fun to see that look of interest in his eye. But, he's awfully good at math and science. Society might be much better served if he goes out and tries to make people healthier, finds a cure to some terrible disease. But we'll see. That'll be his path to chart.
Congressman Dusty Johnson, we appreciate you joining us. We took 4 minutes. We told you we'd only take 2 or 3, but, sometimes I move the clock a little bit. So thank you. Thank you.
I feel bad bumping in on Ron. My apologies.
No worries.
I think it worked really well. Dusty, get back to work, will you?
Sounds good. Thanks, Bill. Bye.
Ron, that's the first time we've interrupted you with a congressman.
I jokingly refer to a lot of life's events as Seinfeld episodes, and that would be the episode of the phone face-off. And if I'm going to lose a phone face-off to a U.S. congressman, especially a bright star like Dusty Johnson, that's okay. So no problem, Bill.
Now, how do they find you in Sioux Falls?
Well, we are Nelson Commercial Real Estate, or N Commercial for short, and which is on the web, our web address, N Commercial, and has all our contact information. And, we can hopefully pick up next week on some of the discussions that we were, looking forward to in terms of 2019, what to look for. There are some game changers that we kind of know about, but I want to point them out, and it affects our real estate market and our Sioux Falls economy as a whole.
Ron Nelson, appreciate the visit. We'll talk next week with or without the congressman.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Have a great week.